Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica and I make videos all about making and selling candles. If you guys want to check out what my Etsy shop looks like, or if you want to see any of my merch designs, go ahead and click on the first links in the description box below. So this video is for my beginners out there, everybody that considers themselves a candle making newbie or you're just getting into the craft. I wanted to compile this video for you guys so that you will have kind of a better understanding when you're getting into candle making. And I'm also going to be answering some frequently asked questions that I get from a lot of beginners pretty much every single day. So first things first, we're just going to be going over some basic candle making terms. So the first term is going to be cold throw. You will often see this written as CT, so cold throw. This is just what the candle smells like in this state. So what it smells like when the candle is cold, when it hasn't been lit, that is considered the cold throw. And then bouncing off of that, hot throw or HT is the way that the candle smells while it's burning. And so you will often hear people say, the hot throw of my candle is really good, the hot throw of this wax isn't great, the cold throw is great. You just have to know what these terms mean. Basically, cold throw, what it smells like when it's cold, hot throw, what it smells like when it's burning. The next term is melt pool. So this is really important when you are talking about testing your candle. So the melt pool basically is just the melted portion of the candle while it's burning. So that's pretty much what the melt pool is. You will become very, very familiar with that as you are testing and as you are learning more with your candle making. But essentially it is just that melted liquid portion of wax that comes from your wick. So the wick is what creates the melt pool. The flame is what you put onto the wick. The heat of it heats up the wax of the candle, and that heated portion is considered the melt pool. You will also hear a lot of people talking about wicking up or wicking down. So this is just talking about the size of the wick. Now, when we talk about the size of the wick, we're not necessarily talking about how long the wick is. We're more talking about how thick the wick is. So the thickness of the wick is what we talk about with sizing. So if you guys are looking into different sizes of wicks, it's talking about the gauge of the wick, so just how thick it is. So when somebody is using a wick and the melt pool is only taking up maybe half of the candle and it's been burning for 4 hours, that means you need to wick up. So wicking up just means you need to get a thicker gauge of wick, so a bigger wick, in order to create a bigger melt pool that will be able to melt the entire candle, the entire surface of the candle, and it won't cause any tunneling. And then of course, wicking down just means you need to get a smaller gauge wick. So you need to get a wick that's not as large, and that could just mean that you have a wick that is burning way too fast and you just need to wick down to have it burn a little bit slower. You will often also see people write the words FO, and that just stands for fragrance oil. So people will write sometimes FL, meaning fragrance load, and that's essentially just the same thing. So people talk about the percentages of fragrance oil that they use in candles, and oftentimes people aren't going to just write out fragrance oil, they're going to write FO and then the percentage. So you'll often hear the FO percentage was 8% or 10% or whatever it is. You'll see that one a lot. Also, something else that you guys will see a lot of is an abbreviation for common candle suppliers. So the most common one is CS, and that stands for Candle Science. There's also TFC, which stands for the Flaming Candle, CCS, California Candle Supply. These are just common candle suppliers that people will abbreviate. So if you guys are not already a part of the Facebook group run by Jeff Stanley, highly recommend you guys go over there. You guys will find so many answers. I refer to a lot of you guys when I can't answer your questions myself. I always refer you guys to that group. It has helped me tremendously in my process of getting started with candle making. I learned everything I know from that group. So I will put a link in the description box below for you guys to check out that group, but I highly recommend it. You guys will find so many answers. So this next portion of the video, I just wanted to answer a couple of questions that I get on a consistent basis from you guys. And the first one has to do with how much fragrance oil should I use? What percentage should I use for this size of jar? So if you have, let's say, a 4-ounce jar and you're asking me how much fragrance oil should I use for that jar? So this is a really, really important thing that new candle makers need to know, is that the size of the jar doesn't determine the fragrance oil percentage. Actually, it has nothing to do with that. It's all about the wax that you use. So whatever wax that you are using to make your candles with, go to that website and check on the fragrance load percentage. If they don't have it on there, which they should, call the company, call the supplier and ask them what the fragrance oil load range is. So a load range is their recommendation of how much fragrance oil percentage you should be using when you're working with that wax. Now, it's typically about 6% to 10%. And I've had so many people ask me, where are you getting that number? How are you choosing 8%? Why are you choosing 10%? That is up to you. I mean, if they have a fragrance load range, there is no right or wrong. You just test different percentages and see what the cold throw is, see what the hot throw is. And if you want a little bit more scent, then you can maybe go from 7% to 9% or whatever it is. So that is up to you. You can choose whatever you want. I've had so many people ask me if I'm just choosing that number randomly, but no, it's all based on the wax that you're using. It has nothing to do with the size of the jar. So just to explain that a little bit further, if you have a small 4-ounce candle and a 16-ounce candle, they both can have an 8% fragrance load. The 4-ounce candle could have a 10% and the 16-ounce could have a 6%. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It just depends on the wax. Because of the vessel that you're using, because of the jar that you're using, it's the ratio between the fragrance oil and the wax. Just because this has 10% and this has 10%, this is not going to have more fragrance oil because it's a smaller jar. It's just the ratio between the fragrance oil and the wax. Another really common question that I get, and I actually did make an entire video on this, but I do still get questions on it, is how do I know what temperature I should be adding my fragrance oil to the wax, talking about the flash points and all that, and just briefly going over that because I did make a whole video. The flash point of the fragrance oil that you're using does not determine what temperature you should be adding that fragrance oil to your wax at. So it has nothing to do with that. It all just depends on the wax that you're using. So a lot of questions that you guys have about fragrance load percentage, what temperature should I be pouring at? All of those questions can be answered by looking at the instructions on the wax that you're using. Because there are so many different kinds of waxes, all of these questions are kind of varied. The answers are varied. So it's not going to be a universal answer for everybody. It really just depends on the wax that you're using. And that's why there's no one right answer for every question, because it really just depends. Another question that I get all the time is people saying, I have an 8-ounce jar. How much wax and how much fragrance oil do I need? I get a lot of, individualized questions like that. And again, I did make an entire video breaking down the formula that I use. It will work no matter what kind of wax you're using. I get questions, will this work for palm wax? Will this work for paraffin, coconut wax? It is math. It is going to be a mathematical equation. So it will work for any kind of wax that you're using. You just need to know the amount of fill weight for your jar, so the amount of wax that can fill up your jar, not the volume of the jar. So this is an 8-ounce tin, but it is not an 8-ounce candle. So I would not use 8 ounces in the equation. The fill weight, so the amount of weight of wax that can fit in here, is 6 ounces. So that's the number that I would use for the equation. But again, I will put a card up here if you guys want to check out an equation on how to find out the exact amount of wax and the exact amount of fragrance oil needed to make one candle. And from there, you guys can make larger batches by just multiplying both of those numbers to be able to figure out how much wax and how much fragrance oil you need for a certain amount of candles. Something else that I hear from you guys a lot is asking me what the best wax is to use, and the answer is whatever wax you want to use. You got to test out the waters. You got to figure out what kind of wax you want to use. Some people love 464, other people hate 464. Some people love coconut 83, others hate coconut 83. So you guys have to figure out what kind of wax you personally love working with. Don't just pick whatever wax I'm using or whatever wax anybody else is using. I highly recommend that you guys test out a multitude of different kinds of waxes, and you'll find out real fast, the ones that you like better and the ones that you enjoy working with. And I'm gonna end this video with a little tip for you guys when you guys are looking to ask questions, because feel free to ask questions. Feel free to join the Facebook group that I was talking about earlier, and ask questions in that group if you guys are struggling with something or if you have any questions on what you are working on. But I will tell you guys exactly how to ask your question. Now, I know this sounds a little funny because you might be thinking, I can't just ask a question. Absolutely, you can. But if you guys want to have the best response and give everybody the most information so that they can give you the best response and the best answer for the situation that's going on. So let's say you guys lit a candle and the melt pool just doesn't seem big enough, so you don't know if you should wick up or not. So if you post a photo of that candle and you say, hey guys, how does this look? That gives everybody kind of no information. Nobody knows anything. So in that circumstance, what you guys could do, instead of just putting up a photo and saying, hey, how does this look? Say, hey guys, I use 464 with an Eco 10 wick. The diameter of the jar is 2.7 inches and it's been burning for close to 2 hours now. That gives everybody a lot more information, because once you guys post something without that information, you'll see the first thing that everybody asks you is what kind of wick, what kind of wax, what's the diameter. All of these kind of encompass a good answer, so you guys will get the best response and it will hopefully help you out a lot more. But anyways, guys, that is all for today's video. I really love making videos for beginners and kind of breaking things down. I love explaining things and hopefully teaching you guys and helping you out. So I would love to make more, beginner questions answered, terms, or whatever it is for the future. I would love to make more videos like this. So if you guys did like it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at MemoryBoxCandleCo. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.